Hey, what's going on, guys? Kalamazi here, and this is going to be my 9.2, I guess this is the 9.2 PTR Warlock tier sets Sims video. Now, I believe in the nightly build last night, maybe tonight, I don't know, it's actually 1 a.m., so I'm not even sure at this point, but the actual 2-piece, 4-piece tier Sims for Warlocks are indeed now simmable. Now, I believe Destro and Aff do take custom APLs and things, but thanks to the help of father-daughter through the lock Discord and things, who's been working on them, we now have, I guess, the results to show. Now, these are not going to contain double legendary Sims. I'm gonna hold off on that until this week's build, maybe to see if we get double legendaries, if they do some class tuning, legendary tuning, covenant tuning, whatever, what have you. And with that being said, there still could be tier gear tuning and set tuning and changes made. I'm hoping they make some changes to Destro. Demo is bugged on PTR, but the actual Sims for the Demonology bonus are not bugged. We'll look at that. That, Destro, and Aff, everything all together. And if you guys have any questions or anything, feel free to drop them down below in the comment section. Any weak auras or profiles or add-ons, you can grab on my Twitch for free. If you want to swing by, hang out, grab them, asking questions anytime, feel free to do so. One more big thing here. Once again, a huge shout out to my patrons. Thank you a million times, guys, for all support. Really, truly appreciate it. The 9.2 Warlock spreadsheet should indeed be going up, I would assume, towards the end of this week, depending on PTR testing and things like that. If you're interested in that, a tier 3 Felgar rank my Patreon or higher does indeed get early access to it. So with that being said, let's start off the video. Oh, by the way, I guess there is one final thing. Thank you guys for 50,000 subs on YouTube. It's pretty cool, pretty awesome. I don't get anything for it, but it's been a personal goal, I guess, of mine for a while now. Thank you, dudes, for 50k. Really appreciate it. So yeah, now let's get into the video. Starting off with, I guess, let's do Night Fae. I simmed Night Fae and Necrolord. We didn't sim Kirin or Venthyr. We'll get into that if they tune in Covenants and they're good again. But Night Fae Destro. Let's start there. Okay, so just like every other Sims video that I've done, the links to the Sims will be down in the video description or comment section, one of the two. Just scroll down and you should be able to find them. So there are some little abbreviations here I'll get into when we get to those Sims on the line. These are baseline Destro Sims. So these are Night Fae Destro Sims. And for the most part, the Night Fae tier bonus is probably the most underwhelming we have. Oh, sorry, the Destro tier bonus. Sorry, the most underwhelming we have. The 4-piece is the Inferno proc that you get off the 4-piece. It's fun, it's exciting, but there's no interaction with Reign of Chaos. And I don't like having a 4-piece that's dependent upon the 2-piece procking, which, you know, in single target, the 2-piece is a Reign of Fire cast. And Reign of Fire, we can pull up the actual 2-piece sim here. Reign of Fire, over the course of this 5-minute sim, it dealt 1.9% of our damage, which honestly is actually a bit higher than I thought it would be. Where is it actually? It's like somewhere in here. Yeah, there you go. It's actually a little more than I thought it would be. But regardless, it's still bad. It's still not good. Casting a Reign of Fire in single target is not really where I want to be. But I sort of also expect like the 2-piece to be about this impactful, maybe a little more, with the 4-piece being tied into it and being a good bit more powerful than what the 2 actually is, right? With them working off each other. So in single target, the 4-piece spawning the extra Infernal is about an 8.8% DPS increase, roughly running to 9. Now, also, these Sims are without any shards domination in them, so there's no unholy bonus, whatever. That's why they might seem a bit lower, because there's no 5 shards at, you know, portentous rankings, no unholy intellect procs or blood shards, whatever, what have you. These are all just baseline gear Sims. This profile right here is with, like, Sanctum gear on, but with no shards in it. So, and these here are quite literally the exact same sets of gear with the tier bonus applied to them. So we're simming with Cinders here. There's no Wilfred Sims here like that. We can go into the actual 4-piece and you will indeed see the uptime on the bonus, albeit briefly. It's called like Herald of Chaos, I believe, something along those lines. Herald of Fire. There we go. And if you go down to the actual cast sequencing and things, you will see a few random Reign of Fire cast in the actual, I don't forget, in the opener. There's your Infernal double bolts. Bolt there. There's a Rain proc. So first Rain proc after the 3rd bolt cast, going a bit more here, a Rain at 16, a Rain at 18, I guess luck is luck, and you go from there. Now this will obviously change between each sim that you run, but over the course of, you know, 5,000 sims, whatever, what have you, that's probably about, what I guess you get average sequencing wise, give or take. So about 9,569 DPS. We know as of right now, Destro is not very good in single target. It needs some help. I am hoping for some class tuning, either a Chaos Bolt buff or an Aura buff. But yeah, so like the 4-piece is the big part of Destro. Now, we've already given a little bit of feedback on the bonus. I think the 2-piece needs to be after every, or after X shard spent, or after X chaos bolts or rate of fire cast, you get a guaranteed proc. I don't like the RNG being in there. I think it's sort of crappy. It's unfortunate. And even when it comes to progression, RNG is not really where you want to be. I know Blizzard likes this chaotic energies version of Destro, but I don't think any players really do. So, on top of that, I do think the 2-piece should give you either a Chaos Bolt or a Rain of Fire proc. You can be able to, you can choose whichever one you get. So like if you cast a Rain and it procs, you can cast another Rain or a Bolt. If you cast a Bolt and it procs, you can choose either or, right? And I don't really think that'd be too OP when it comes to single target, 2 target, or even AoE, because from what I have seen, you cannot proc a proc from a proc, if that makes sense. So there's a lot of I guess Blizzard was very, very careful with this bonus, and the 4-piece obviously had no rate of chaos interaction, so that's even worse, right? Either way, out of all 3 specs, spoilers ahead, in single target, this is the least impressive one and the smallest DPS gain. So I assume there will be some changes for Destro. Moving on, this is the Destro. I guess I did one AoE Destro sim because people are going to want to see it. Once again, pretty small 2-piece here, Chaos Bolt and AoE, not incredibly impactful. But in a 4-target 1-minute sim, okay, yeah, those extra infernals do amount for a good bit of extra damage. So not too bad. This is sort of how it feels in single target too. Not as relevant versus a lot more relevant in AoE, and especially playing Roaring Blaze and things here too. Didn't even change the random chaos. So moving on. Next we have Demonology. Now this is a Demonology Vile Fiend sim playing Night Fae. 10,817 DPS versus 9,000. So yeah, there's a bit of a disparity between Demonology and Destruction for single target. The big thing here to take away though is that this is my baseline demo profile again with no tier. We are indeed playing Wilfred's here, no domination shards. This is the 2-piece. Like we've said, the 2-piece being your 3rd Dreadstalker is incredibly powerful. The 2-piece is essentially better than the 4-piece, or it's more impactful than the 4-piece, you know, just pound for pound, right? Because this is like the 2-piece and the 4 being added in here, correct? So now, number one, I don't want Blizzard to nerf this to giving you a 50% chance to proc a dog. It needs to be 100% still. I think that from what we've seen from the 4-piece, with currently Malicious Imps not counting towards decon, a few other random issues here and there, and like on PTR right now, Malicious Imps are, I believe they're a 50% chance per soul shard spent to spawn one. So you spend 2, you're basically spawning an imp guaranteed, which is why you have all these extra malicious imps running around when you're, you know, playing demo. That is not the case in these sims. So as of right now on PTR, malicious imps count for about 4.5 to 5% of our damage in single target when I'm actually doing things in game. But if you look at the 4-piece here, malicious imp fell firebolt damage is, I think, right here. Let's see here. It's 0.9%. So obviously the proc chance is fixed in the actual sims. And when the imps expire in single target, they have an ability called Doom Bolt, which I believe is like 0.4. Yeah, it's 0.4. So the actual 4-piece is fixed in the sims. And I'm going to be honest, like, okay, 0.9% plus 0.4% here. I'm not sure if there's a chance for them to give demonic core procs and things like that. Currently, they are not working with decon. So I'm going to be honest, the actual 2-piece feels like it should be the 4-piece, and the 4 should be the 2. Now, I'm going to be honest. Okay, honest. I'm fine with it being like this. I'll get my 2-piece and be happy. When I get the 4, okay, I'll be a little bit more happy. But I wouldn't be surprised if Blizzard swapped these 2 around and maybe added a bit more value to the actual 4-piece. Now, I want to make a video this coming week, once again, on double legendary combinations, which I think Demo will benefit a lot from, both for Night Fae and Necrolord. And also give more feedback on tier and stuff. But I'm waiting for this week's PTR build, assumingly or hoping there will be changes to tier and legendaries and all that, so I don't like end up making 2 videos back and forth. But yeah, so this is the 4-piece here for Vile Fiend. Now, one of the questions for Demonology on PTR is from the Shadows better than Vile Fiend? Because from the Shadows, you have your 3rd dog with 2-piece. So 3rd dog, whether you're playing Nia or Dreamweaver, Feel the Blossom's value, all that, more haste, more dog chomps, playing Carnivorous Stalkers, a higher chance to reproc FTS. Now, you can't see FTS in sims from what I understand, because FTS is a debuff on your target, not an actual buff you can maintain. But FTS in 9.1, which is from the Shadows, the talent for Demonology, affects your Tyrant's Demon Fire damage, as well as Demon Bolt from you, Hand of Gul'dan splash damage, and Implosion damage if you're casting Implosion for whatever reason. It currently does not affect the Malicious Imp's Firebolt cast, or I believe they're one of the abilities on the Malicious Imp does indeed count as Shadow Flame damage, but it does not count I guess it's not increased by from the shadows. Regardless, I messed around with it a bit on PTR, and it felt pretty similar to Vile Fiend, but Sims are, you know, sort of the end-all be-all. 10,817 for Vile Fiend, Night Fae, 10,688 for from the shadows. So it is a larger overall increase, roughly, being 13.5% compared to this being 12.3. But Vile Fiend is a baseline 9633, with this being 9419, because, you know, FTS 2 dogs versus 3. So like there's a bit more, I guess, disparity there between like the baseline sim and the overall high-end 4-piece sim here. But keep in mind, what I'm seeing on PTR, you know, trying to just test like on dummies and things like that, is with the bugged 4-piece. So there's more malicious imp spawning, so there's more shards coming in, so there's potentially more demon bolt procs coming in if they count towards, you know, demonic core. There's more hand of Gul'dan cast because there's more malicious imps and more shards coming in. So I've seen them be very, very similar, almost even like maybe favoring FTS on PTR, like just like through dummy testing and things. But with the 4-piece being fixed, this does seem like it's probably pretty accurate. Now, once again, things can still change with 2-piece, 4-piece, and all that kind of stuff, but they both seem very close. Interestingly enough as well, if you go into the actual breakdown here, the max like higher end here, 12,116 for the 4-piece with FTS. If you go into like the max breakdown here of the Vile Fiend build, we have 12,040. So once again, a bit of RNG, sort of similar to how like BFA was with VOP Major, Supreme Commander, all that kind of stuff, right? If you get the insane FTS uptime, 90+%, for example, right? It could very well give you a higher output overall. But looking at the minimum here, 9,535, and this being, you know, 9,414. So relatively similar, a potential higher end on the actual FTS build, but the overall, the actual mean between the two does indeed favor Vile Fiend a little bit more. So definitely worth keeping an eye on. But Demo 2-piece being massive, 4-piece being fine, but I wouldn't be surprised to see swap around at all. But once again, Blizzard, please don't make the 2-piece some kind of, you know, 50% chance to spawn a dog. Make it guaranteed, and just you know, maybe swap these around, retool them, rework them, whatever. So moving on to Affliction for Night Fae. Baseline Affliction Warlock Sims. Now, once again, this is Night Fae. DS means Drain Soul. So keep in mind, with the 4-piece, Nightfall is currently proccing. Nightfall, which is the other sim here, is proccing is proccing the 4-piece for Affliction. Goodness, I can't even talk tonight. Nightfall is proccing the 4-piece for Affliction more than Drain Soul is by a substantial margin. So in the Sims, spoilers ahead, let me swap the after briefly and put on a piece of gear. You will see, where's this piece of gear right here? Where's my tier at? There, my tier is somewhere in here. There we go. You will indeed see Nightfall being favored over Drain Soul in these Sims. Now, that might change when we end up running 2 legendaries and things later on. I'm not sure, haven't really run those Sims yet. But here's the actual Drain Soul max, I guess, Sim, whatever, being 9,739 DPS. Here is the actual Nightfall Sim, being 9,816. So, about an 80 DPS difference here, favoring Nightfall. Now, I played Nightfall and Malefic Wrath AF in testing of the first boss in Sanctum, goodness, and Sepulcher, whatever, a couple of days ago. And I'm going to be honest, it really didn't feel that bad compared to what I thought it would be. The bigger issue, I think, is like if you're trying to play Nightfall Mythic Plus, because I'm going to be real, a 70-80 DPS disparity. In single target, yeah, you'll play Nightfall, but in Drain Soul, or in Mythic Plus, you still want Drain Soul for the periodic ticks, for the channels, for the shard sniping value, all that kind of stuff. So the 4-piece is indeed favoring Nightfall by a bit, about a 10.5% overall damage increase compared to, you know, Demo being 13.5 or 12.3, and Desher being immediately 8.8, you know, to 9% here. So for the most part, 9816, 9569, and Demonology being about 1,000 DPS ahead of everything else here. But compared to what 9.1 and 9.15 brought, this is a relatively similar breakdown from what we've seen. Demonology still being very good in single target. I will say the difference between Malefic Wrath, Affliction, and Demonology in 9.15 is less than 1,000 DPS. The gap has widened a bit heading into 9.2 with these current tier bonuses, right? I think my current Malefic Wrath sim for Affliction, Night Fae Affliction, is like 10.75. And Demonology is like 11.1, maybe. It's a bit, and that's playing Nia, right? Playing Dreamweaver, it's gonna be a little higher here, but still, the 1,000 DPS disparity it has gotten a bit larger heading into actual 9.2 with the tier bonuses being the way that they are. So we got to wait and see what happens with I guess all 3 tier sets tuning wise, but Demonology appears to indeed be the most powerful one for Night Fae, and just Demo followed by and then followed by Destro. But I'm gonna be honest, I think Destro's probably get some buffs at some point, because even with the tier bonus being like a 12% DPS gain, I still think Destro is a bit lacking at this point, and with the 2-4 being so suboptimal, and so just like, come on, dude. Yeah, it needs some help. However, Necrolord Sims have also been gaining value over the course of 9.1 and 9.15. Now, once again, I'll end up doing like a double legendary video. I would assume this week later on, whether we get tuning or not in this week's PTR build. But Shard of Annihilation speculation with Night Fae or with Necrolord is very, very real, because Night Fae has DSS, Decaying Soul Potential, or Legendary, which is not bad in single target. It's fine with multiplicative haste stacking and additive crit, better in AoE and cleave settings. But Necrolord has Shard of Annihilation, which gives you that big Drain Soul, or Shadow Bolt, or Demon Bolt, or Incinerate value, right? And if you stack Drain Soul, or Nightfall, or whatever spell with these other modifiers you have, like Malefic Wrath, like From the Shadows, with like Roaring Blaze, you can get a lot of extra value there. But like I said, even looking at the Sims, before even getting into that territory, Destro, Night Fae being 9,569. Necrolord, 9,715. It's pretty funny here, because the actual difference between, I guess, comparing the two covenants here, there's not a huge difference here in like actual just raw percent gain. It's like 0.5 and 8.8 versus 8.7. So pretty much the same across the board. It doesn't really favor one covenant or the other. Decimating Bolt doesn't really give an amp to Chaos Bolt, not really an amp to Rain of Fire. And the same goes for, Soul Rot and Night Fae. It's just the baseline bonus just the baseline bonus that affects Destro, but doesn't really play into either, covenant strengths or interactions, right? We know that Necrolord's a bit ahead for destruction in single target and 2-target compared to Night Fae, so that is, for the most part, looks to be carrying over into 9.2 currently. Now, looking at the big AoE sim for Destro Necrolord stuff, 26,746 compared to 28,536. Destro being a bit more, Necrolord being a bit more single target based, with Destro compared to Night Fae being a bit more AoE based. Once again, both Sims here playing Cinders, not playing, any kind of Wilfred synergy here, or, like that. All Cinders across the board. To be expected, for the most part. Once again, when we get, DSS and Cinders, or DSS and Wilfreds, I expect Night Fae to be substantially higher in AoE compared to Necrolord, but Necrolord to have better single target compared to Night Fae, whenever that happens. But once again, 2-piece, 4-piece, not a whole lot of interactions between, either covenant regardless. So Destro higher for Necrolord. Moving on to what do we have here? Let's find Demonology. Demonology. So here's the interesting part. I ended up simming Vile Fiend and FTS Necrolord Themo stuff, right? Which is the same as Night Fae. 4-piece Vile Fiend Necrolord sims, 10,668. So this is just Vile Fiend, Themo, regular thing. Same thing, playing Carnivorous Stalkers, 2-piece, 4-piece. Here's the actual Vile Fiend sims for Night Fae, 10,817. Now this is playing Dreamweaver, which I typically play or sim with Nia when it comes to raid settings as Demo, but with potential for DSS and things like Patch and just, higher damage output, I've shifted a bit towards simming with Dreamweaver. We'll see where that goes in the actual raid in Prague, but Necrolord Demo coming in about 150 DPS lower, comparing both the 4 pieces here. But once again, raw DPS gain for 2-piece being 10.3 and 12.4. And looking at the actual 2-piece, 4-piece for Demonology playing, or Night Fae Demonology, it's basically the exact same thing. 2-piece incredibly strong, 4-piece being, strong, I guess a bit, right? But the 2 pieces where, the bulk of your power actually lies with Demonology. Interestingly enough, comparing the actual 4-piece with FTS, 10,592, so like 10.6, we can round that up, right? Looking at FTS with Night Fae though, 10,688, 13.5 and 11.3 here. And also very close here as well. I actually expected this version of Demonology to be very close, like Necrolord Demo, to be very close to Vile Fiend, if not higher with FTS, because Necrolord, Decimating Bolt stuff, FTS uptime, FTS, increasing the actual value of Decimating Bolt. But this sim in like Necrolord Destro does indeed hold decimating bolt for your tyrant, because Kevin's oozling and tyrant value with decon. So there might be a little bit of like wiggle room here. I'm not really sure how to figure that all out. I mean, I don't know if you want to move the actual timing of decimating bolt there, but I mean, over the course of a 5-minute sim, if you're holding your decimating bolt for, you know, 18 seconds, you're probably losing what, 2.5, 3 casts of it. So I guess it does make a bit sense to see FTS a bit lower here. There has been some speculation on playing Grim Inquisitor's demo builds with like with Necrolords, you can just decimating bolt on cooldown to have one with your tyrant, one on cooldown, and then one again basically on cooldown with your tyrant once again. But that's sort of speculative, and until we get more tuning done, and I guess class changes, covenant tuning, double legendaries, I sort of want to wait on those sims, hold off and see where they're at. But either way, comparing the two big builds here, you're looking at about 150 DPS difference roughly, favoring Night Fae here. And once again, this is Dreamweaver. Nia will be lower than this, albeit Nia probably gains a bit more value comparatively. It depends sort of, because stamina's healing, they're a dog being permanent, so there is that. Both very close here. When it comes to Affliction, Necrolord Drain Soul Sims, 9,686 DPS, about a 4.1 game for 2-piece on AF 2-set, and 7.2 4-piece. So 9,686 looking over here, 9,739 5.6 and 7.4. So a bit of a difference here comparatively, but still favoring Night Fae a little bit, which is not incredibly surprising. My Night Fae Dreamweaver sims and my Necrolord AF sims, both playing the left and right, are pretty close to each other right now when it comes to retail. I believe it actually favors Necrolord a tiny bit. Once again, 2-piece, 4-piece interactions, things like that, having less time to either with what I'm assuming is happening here. I haven't looked at the actual uptimes and things, is that it's able to maintain Malefic Wrath at a higher uptime overall comparatively to what it, like in 9.2 due to Rapture procs and things like that, comparatively to what it can in 9.15. Because in 9.1 right now, the way Night Fae plays Malefic Wrath's Affliction is you open up like normal, you stack, you know, your Malefic Wrath buff to 3, and you drain soul a bunch, right? You drain, you refresh dots, you feel like normal, and you maintain the buff until about 15-ish seconds before the actual before your soul rot comes back off cooldown, and you hold your PS for your soul rot, and then you'll PS soul rot and Rapture multiple times, stack it back to 3, and then once again maintain for the next 45 seconds and let it drop, and then once again build shards, dark lair, go from there. But I'm assuming with the actual 4-piece, it's able to maintain a higher, if not permanent, uptime on Malefic Wrath, and that's as to why you're seeing a higher actual overall uptime here, or DPS, I guess. Why it's shifted a bit more towards Night Fae comparatively to Necrolord, at least for me. But I haven't really dug into it a whole lot, and honestly, until tuning comes into play, I'm probably not going to put that much effort into like trying to find the exact little possible optimizations in the actual sim. But either way, cool to see. 9,739 Drain Soul Night Fae versus 9,686 playing Necrolord. However, we talked about Nightfall being better because Nightfall has a much higher chance to proc the actual 4-piece on the tier, which is the free Rapture cast, right? Nightfall Necrolord, 9,815 DPS. So about a, what, 150 DPS gain here, comparatively to Drain Soul. And looking at the actual Night Fae one, 9,816 DPS. So it's pretty much neck and neck. Now, this could change a good bit with Shard of Annihilation mixed in comparatively to DSS, Decaying Soul Satchel, when it comes to double legendaries, because I'm assuming that Shard of Annihilation giving you 3 huge damage increases to your Shadow Bolt, stacking with Nightfall, potential procs, right? Which is, once again, a DPS increase or a big damage increase on top of Malefic Wrath. That compounding value, I would assume, is probably going to make a pretty big difference and push Necrolord in single target comparatively to like this version here, playing DSS, which will give you a good haste amp and a bit of a crit amp. I'm assuming single target Necrolord stuff for Affliction will probably end up being stronger with Shard of Annihilation and Malefic Wrath versus Decaying Soul Satchel and Malefic Wrath for Night Fae. But we'll see where that all goes. So pretty similar to what we saw with Night Fae overall, though. Destro being more relevant, but Demo being the king here. Demo still having a 10.7k sim for Necrolord, 10.8k for Night Fae. Affliction not being bad at about 9.8 Necrolord and about 9.8 for Night Fae, and Destro being better for Necrolord. But to be fair, we've known this, at least as far as single target and like 2-target cleave goes with Havoc. When it comes to AoE, Night Fae is still king. So overall, I'm pretty happy I don't want to say happy. I'm happy for the most part with Aft here. I wouldn't mind seeing Aft get a bit more of a bump up as far as like raw damage is concerned, because once again, I mean, I know that Demonology's main thing is single target, but it also has, you know, PI scaling and stamina scaling and things. It's about a 1000 DPS ahead of Aft in this actual sim. Now I don't really think Demo necessarily needs to be nerfed. I want to wait for, like, you know, class tuning and things to see where all that goes, and, you know, double legendaries, covenant tuning. But I wouldn't mind seeing Aft get a bit of a bump up, whether it's reverting the actual Rapture nerfs a bit, or like changing the actual, I guess reverting the Focus Malignancy nerf, right? That came out in 9.1, something along those lines. But the actual tier set's not bad. I think it's going to gain a lot of value in like council-based fights if they're actually a thing in the raid. The main tier set, once again, it needs some attention, is Destro, 2-piece and 4-piece. Either you remove the RNG on the 2-piece, make it more consistent, something like every X shard spent or every X Chaos Bolt or Rain of Fire cast. You make the 4-piece interact with Rain of Chaos, which gives Rain of Chaos more value, because we don't even really play that in single target or 2-target. It's like a heavy AoE talent, but it would be pretty cool, sort of how like VOP interacted with Supremacy and things in the end of BFA. And there also needs to be, if you get a proc with the 2-piece, that it gives you either a free Chaos Bolt or a free Ring. I don't think limiting it to, you know, the opposite of whatever you cast is worth it. And let's be honest, casting a Rain of Fire in a single target feels bad. It's not fun to play, and it, for the most part, is bad, even with the Infernal spawning, because a single target, an Infernal that lasts 8 seconds in single target doesn't really bring a crazy amount of value, right? Especially if there's no Rain of Chaos interactions. It's a little bit of shard gen, a little bit of immolation aura value, and that's really it. And the Rain of Fire just feels terrible to cast. So I do also expect to maybe see a little bit of Demonology tuning to the 4-piece there. It probably could use a bit of help. Once again, the 2-piece is where the power lies in Demonology tier sets, right? They could just straight up swap these around, make the 2-piece the 4-piece and the 4 the 2. But even with the 4-piece being the way that it is right now, I think it might even be a semi subpar 2-piece by a tiny bit. I wouldn't mind seeing the, like, it's fun to play with and it's cool, but I think I wouldn't hate seeing the actual proc rate increase, or having, you know, imps count with like decon, because they're not currently. It probably needs a tiny bit of like love in a certain area, but overall, I mean, the 2-piece is great. A 3rd dog is awesome, and it really makes the spec feel a lot better. So yeah, that's basically it. Demo's still good at a single target. Aft gained some ground, and Destro also needs some help. But regardless, it's pretty cool to see the actual numbers for each spec, and I guess each covenant when it comes to 2-piece and 4-piece. So yeah, that about wraps it up, dudes. Thanks for watching. Hopefully the video helped you all, I guess, get a better idea, and I guess see for the first time the actual 2-piece and 4-piece values for each Warlock spec. It's basically what I expected for the most part. There's been a lot of feedback on the actual WoW forums talking about the lack of excitement in the Destro 2-piece, 4-piece, and honestly the lack of damage and interactions, and it just feels pretty bland. So I hope the Destro 2-piece and 4-piece get some actual help there. Once again, Demo 4-piece, they probably could use a bit of help. Pretty buggy on PTR now, but I assume in the next build, hopefully double legendaries, hopefully covenant class tuning, and hopefully some bug fixes to the actual tier, so we can go into the raid and get a bit of a better idea as to where Demo, Destro, and Aff actually lie. Any questions, feel free to drop them down below, guys. I'll be sure to get back to you. And also, while you're down there, let me know what you guys think of this actual video. I guess the Sims and things in general, I'm curious to get y'all's take on it. There's typically, when a video is based around Demonology, there's typically some interesting conversations in the comment section. So I'm curious to get y'all's thoughts on things. I assume I assume I know how it's gonna go, but yeah, let me know. Once again, any week wars, profiles, or add-ons you see here, you can grab for free off my Twitch anytime. Feel free to swing by. I stream 5 to 6 days a week. I do indeed stream all the actual raid testing, my guild's prog, everything like that. So if you want to swing by and hang out anytime, feel free to do so. Also, once again, one massive shout out to my patrons. Thank you a million times, guys, for all support. The 9.2 Warlock spreadsheet should be, I guess, under construction within a probably like a week or so, depending on raid testing happening this week and class tuning and all that. The tier 3 fellow guard rank my Patreon or higher does indeed get early access to that if you are interested in potentially doing so and or supporting. Should be a link up here, as well as in the video description down below. Hopefully you guys like the tree, by the way. I don't know why the lights are blinking, because the lights don't blink on the tree. Whatever, it doesn't matter. Anyways, thanks for watching, guys. Much love, and I'll catch you all again soon on stream. Peace.